Blessings and greetings, everyone. Welcome to Adventures in ecoRelations. This is a monthly series that's been happening on the fourth Thursday of each month for the past year. And tonight is our final episode. And I'm thrilled, actually, that it is with Bev Templeton and with the Sacred Redwood Tree Elders. We've had a beautiful journey that started out with my friend Grace Cohen and the apple trees, this beautiful story about the apple trees and how she was sharing these seeds and a new story of what the apple tree means in a world that honors the divine feminine. So that's what we started with in July. And then we went to the ancient gum tree, the red gum tree in Australia with Elder Joan Bowler. And then we went to Ecuador with a profoundly sacred grandmother tree on a retreat there with Lady Master Kira. And then we had Pam and we had Tessa from Fiji and Pam's New York and Ellen, the West Coast, and Elise. And we've been going all over the place. So I'm just super grateful, remembering all of the humans and the elders of all kinds, nature elders of all kinds, who have been co-creating with us. So the focus has always been on our relationship with these, our personal relationship with these nature elders, and all the different ways that that can look. My intention for doing the series was to help normalize how natural and normal it is for us to communicate with our nature relatives, and that we're wired for this, and that we all have a unique relationship, and that our communication looks and feels and sounds different. And of course, it's also about what magic unfolds when we partner co-creatively with our nature elders. And so I'm really thrilled that for our final episode, we have this beautiful story that Bev is going to share with us. So I'd like to introduce her. Where am I? Where's my introduction? So Bev is a retired science teacher and nature communicator living in Sarasota, Florida. Beverly is passionate about helping people to create conscious partnerships with tree beings for personal and planetary well-being. She's going to share tonight about her relationship with the Ancient Redwood Trees, the messages for the Redwoods project, and what is unfolding for the project in the future. She's the founder of the Global Tree Lovers, which empowers harmonious healing connections between trees and humanity at the intersection of spirituality, education, and love. I'll meet you there in that intersection. I'll meet you there. So welcome, Beverly. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Oh, thank you, Danielea, for having me this evening. I'm delighted to be here with you.
I always like to begin these interviews with hearing a little bit about each person's childhood. You know, who were you? Were you already and always hooked up, or did it happen later in life? So yeah, can you share a little bit about your early years?
Yeah, sure. I grew up in the Bronx, New York, and it was quite an urban environment. But I remember as a child during the summer going to Orchard Beach with my family for picnics. And part of Orchard Beach was a rocky shoreline, and it was tidal. So when the tide would go out, there were tidal pools that remained. And all these little creatures that lived in the tidal pools. And I was just fascinated. I could just sit there and watch the little fish and the snails and the little crab-like creatures. And I think that's really where I first connected with the natural world and realized the awe and beauty of these little micro environments. And that's where it all began for me.
Wonderful. You remind me, I have this image from my own childhood. We had actually an abandoned church at the end of our street that we weren't actually supposed to go to, but of course, curiosity got the best of myself and my best friend. And I have this image, we would pick up these, those great big giant patio stones, they'd be that odd pink color. I remember we took all our strength to lift it up because we wanted to see what was underneath. And there,
Mhm.
when you say a little micro environment, there was the worms and the bugs and everything. And we got to see what was happening under there. So yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah, what happened later? How did this awakening happen for you in terms of your connection with trees specifically?
Yeah, so my in one form or another, whether it was teaching or working for the EPA, but truly my connection with the trees, it didn't happen until I retired about 5 years ago. And it was a point in my life when I retired of really looking back to see what I had done, what I had accomplished, and where I wanted to go in the future, what the next chapter of my life would look like. And I realized that I wanted to stay in the environmental field, but I wanted to coordinate it or connect it to my spiritual path. I wanted those two things to join together. And when I came to that realization, that's when things really started opening up for me. And my connection to the trees really started to come in a strong way.
Beautiful. I'm curious if others feel the same way. I know for myself, sound weaving is also one of the ways that I communicate with our nature relatives. And I know for myself, until I brought the spirituality and singing together, boom, sort of the purpose for me to sing actually opened up. It opened up my entire world for me. So I really understand. I think that there might even be in all of us, there's some call to a more holistic version of whatever we're doing, right? That we have been living in a world that has naturally kind of siloed itself. We become specialists instead of, being the whole beings that I know that we're becoming now. So I'd like to move into hearing about the project with the Redwoods. And what I'd like to do just before we start to speak of them is something that I normally do at the top of any anything that I do, which is just have a moment to center inside and to also, offer up a prayer. So I'd like to do that. One of the reasons it didn't happen, so I'd like to acknowledge this right now, is that piece of music that you heard playing at the beginning was, it's a recording, it's my recording, and it is an original melody that a grove of Douglas fir trees gave to me in 2019 when I asked the universe if they would give that to me for the Om Tara chant. And of course, Tara is the Bodhisattva of compassion. And the story I tell is that this melody's been buried in the roots of the trees for 800 years. And when, a human put up a prayer saying we would like this, they went, psst, send her that one. We want to get this one out. So they gave that melody to me, and they showed me this video of people singing and dancing with trees and singing with it. And of course, we'll be doing it in the upcoming event in Nova Scotia. So I just really wanted to acknowledge our tree elders and how the wisdom that they have, and in some cases that they've been carrying for so long and waiting for us to ask to receive it. And again, I'm really aware that what we're focusing on tonight is messages coming to the elders. Normally in my work, we're focusing on the messages that have come from the elders. So I just want to take a moment and invite us all to just close our eyes. And I just want to offer up a little prayer of gratitude. Ooh. Beloved Mother, Father, God, Creator, Great Spirit, great host of ascended masters, great angelic host, beloved race of Faerie, the nature spirits, Mother Earth, Mother Ocean, Brother Wind, Grandfather Sun, Grandmother Moon, great-grandmother and great-grandfather Ether. We give thanks for this day. We give thanks for the sacred breath of life, the precious water that flows through our veins, the flame of infinity in our hearts, and the flesh on our bones. And we give a special thanks to the great mystery that walks beside us these days and holds our hands. We're here tonight to honor and give our love and gratitude to the Redwood Tree elders. And in this, we also acknowledge and offer our love and gratitude to each of the nature elders that each of us is heart bonded with. Thank you, beloveds. Thank you for all that you have given to us. Thank you for your love and your patience. And as always, if you have a message for any one of us, make yourself known in one of our hearts, and we are happy to bring that message to our conversation. So let us hear now about this sacred project that is helping to reweave the sacred connection between humans and trees. Let us begin.
Thank you. So I'm a daily meditator, and my favorite place to meditate is sitting in my tree. I have a beautiful tree in my backyard. She's a camphor tree that I call Sophia. And Sophia has a very big trunk, and at about 5 feet, the big branches start to come out radially. And there's a little ladder that my husband built, and I can climb up the ladder and sit literally in Sophia's, it feels like I'm sitting in Sophia's hand. And when I meditate there, sometimes she whispers to me, and she sends requests and messages and ideas. And last year, during one of these meditation times, Sophia whispered something like, take messages to the Redwoods. And when the trees speak, you have to listen. So I sent out some emails to friends who shared with friends, and in a very short amount of time, I had received 72 messages from people all around the world, beautiful messages of love and gratitude to the redwood trees. And so my friend Rhonda Richardson and I, we booked our flight and off we went to Northern California. And we met Garth McMurtry, who lives near the Redwoods, and his friend Anastasia, and Anastasia's little dog Sparky. And we gathered around a tree that Garth knows as Grandfather. And Grandfather has a burl, which is a growth on the trunk of the tree right at the base. And it's like you can sit on this burl. So it was like sitting on Grandfather's knee. And as we were about to begin, the 4 of us, we were joined by a park ranger whose name is Wonderheart. And Wonderheart asked if she could join us. And we said, sure. We told her what we were doing. And she had a heart chakra crystal bowl with her in her backpack, which she took out and started to play for us and for the trees. And so the 5 of us took turns And we sat on grandfather's knee and we read these beautiful, heartfelt messages to the redwood trees. And it was a beautiful experience. The trees around us, you could almost feel the limbs bending over so that they could hear the messages a little bit better. And the energy of the messages went down through grandfather's roots to be shared with all of the redwoods in the area. So it was a beautiful event, and very profound and meaningful to us. Would you like me to read some of the messages, or I have some slides I can show? What would you prefer, Danielea?
Yeah, I would love to, I think at this point, hear a few of the messages. And before you do that, I'm just curious, because you're a two-way communicator, were you hearing anything back from grandfather, after you would read a message, or did you have some time afterwards to just sit and hear any direct response from him? I'm just curious.
Definitely a feeling of gratitude from the trees that they had been acknowledged, and they just loved that we were connecting with them. And that was the overall feeling. And also that they were connecting with each person that had sent a message, that there was now a special relationship or a bond or connection between them and everyone who had sent a message to them.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. As you were reading them, I was feeling a lot of that. It was so beautiful. Thank you. Let's hear some of these messages.
Okay, this first one is from Aria. And Aria wrote, I would just like to express my deep gratitude for your presence on this planet. I appreciate the life and wisdom that you bring, the support to other life forms, both physically and energetically, the work that you do on behalf of the planet. And lastly, your majesty is something talked about the world over. Blessings to you and your species. Love, Aria. Your majestic presence is deeply felt and acknowledged. Deep gratitude for bearing witness in such a constant and profound way. You hold so much life in your cool shade, and you stand to point the way to forbearance, constancy, and connection in all things. May your roots feel the tingle of all the connecting rhizomes, all the deep life of the earth itself. May your trunks pulsate with energizing sap, and all your needles quiver with the love we are sending. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's from Beverly Gordon. You have taught me how to sit in silence and love myself, my life, and all beings. You bring to the earth the mystery of deep reverence and being. May you continue to live on this planet as teachers of the sacred. May our beloved Mother Gaia bless you as her sacred teacher. You are the master meditators. I bow in love and gratitude. Karen Grumstrup. Beloved ancient redwoods, we honor and esteem you for your wisdom, your service, your power, and your teachings. You show us community, compassion, and pure love. We feel you and your massive energetic force when in your presence and from afar. May you feel our profound gratitude and love for your service to all species, to our Mother Earth, and to all of her inhabitants. That's from Donna Day. And perhaps one more. Your presence on the planet is a monumental gift. I do not live close to you, but I sense the majesty of your being and the difference you make. I apologize for the ways in which humanity has not understood the voices of nature. Whatever unfolds from this point forward, please know that those who attune to you cannot but love and appreciate you with all of our hearts. Be safe, be well, and thank you for being such grand guardians. That's from Uriel Lindsay.
Oh, wow. Let's just take a moment, just a few breaths to just allow and feel all of the beautiful energy that's been generated by these messages and received by these elders. Beautiful. You know, I recently had the privilege of meeting my first redwood tree. I was in Beacon Hill Park in Victoria. As some of you know, the Listening Fields is a ceremonial space that I host, and we organize dialogue, ceremonial dialogues among groups of humans and nature elders, and it emerged and has been developed for 3 years online. So I'm now taking it on land. And I've done that here in BC, and we'll be doing it in Nova Scotia next month. And so some of us had the occasion to meet and communicate with a redwood tree elder in Beacon Hill Park. He told me his name was Drifter. I thought he was joking. I was like, that's a joke, right? He goes, no. And he explained what that meant to him. He's very social, and he goes out and, you know, meets many others in the area. But he also shared with one of the other listeners, she remarked in her own experience with him, she was in HeartLink with him, and someone walked by in the park talking really loud on their cell phone, like really loud. So she asked him about that. She asked him, how does he feel about, you know, sort of being ignored, you know, the number of humans that move through without seemingly any conscious awareness that they're there. And, you know, as always, he was completely benevolent and very complacent about it. And he assured her that people, even though they're not conscious that they're there, they are still receiving the energy from these tree elders. And so he very much, you know, was inviting her to let that go, and just to trust that, you know, all was well. And so I just thought about that, you know, with that one of those messages, that piece about, you know, one of the true values that I find of asking and consulting with the nature elders, which is a big focus of the listening field, is that they often provide us with a framework for issues, things that we think are problems that actually aren't problems for them. Right. So I think that they really have a lot to teach us in terms of how what does co-creative partnership look like? What does living in harmony look like? Because it might be something quite different than what we're actually imagining ourselves. But let's look at some of these slides, because I think these are definitely images of what it looks like to be in harmony and to be, you know, collaborating and co-creating together with our tree relatives.
All righty, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to look at some of these slides together. And here we go. So for anyone who's not visited the Redwoods before, it's really difficult to imagine how grand and large and majestic these trees are. There's just nothing else quite like them. To me, it's a little bit like looking at pictures of the Grand Canyon and then actually going there and seeing it yourself. You can't get the full scope of the depth and the grandeur of these natural places and beings. So this first picture, this is a picture of Garth, one of the readers of the messages, and you see Garth, that little tiny person there in the middle, between two of the large redwood trees. So it gives you a little bit of the perspective of how large these trees are. And this is our group. My friend Rhonda that I traveled with is on the left. Next to Rhonda. Next to me is Garth. And then next to Garth is his friend Anastasia. And that's Sparky in her backpack. So the four of us met at Jedediah Redwood State Park, which is the northernmost Redwoods Park in California. And the Redwoods Parks are jointly administered by national and state agencies. So Jedediah Smith is a state park within that system along the California coast. And this is a photo of Park Ranger Wonderheart. And the synchronicities were just so beautiful, because she was scheduled to do a walk and talk. She does barefoot meditations in the Redwoods, and no one came to her presentation, and she saw us standing around grandfather, and she came over and started chatting with us. So here she is with her heart chakra crystal bowl, which she played beautifully for us and for the trees. And she started us off with a beautiful meditation as well. And this is a photo of grandfather. So this is the tree that Garth has been working with for several years. He lives very close to the Jedediah State Park, and this is the burl that I was mentioning before. So this is the growth at the base of the tree, and it made a perfect seat for us to sit and to read these messages. Here's a picture of Anastasia and Sparky taking a turn to read some of the messages. We each had several pages of messages, and we sat one at a time and we read, and again, the trees all around us would respond. You could just feel them connecting to us, and then we also could feel the energy of the words going down through the roots of grandfather to reach other trees in the area. So after the messages were read, we realized that the project wasn't quite complete. And so I got back in touch with Wonderheart and with the rest of the group. And we created an interactive traveling exhibit based on the messages for the Redwoods. And we selected 5 of our favorite images, had them enlarged. We paired each of the images with one of the messages. And that's what you see on the table. We created a poster that explained what the project was all about. That's on the wall. And we created a video, and Danielea will give you the link at the end. And the video has multiple narrators reading more messages. There are more images of the Redwoods, and it's all set to music. So people could access that through a QR code. And then Wonder's supervisor had this wonderful idea of having a message board be part of the exhibit so that people could leave their own messages for the Redwoods as they came to the Hyuchi Visitor Center. And as you can see, lots of messages were left. Adults wrote beautiful messages, and children, even if they couldn't write, they drew pictures. They drew pictures of themselves hugging a tree. They drew pictures of banana slugs. They were very popular. They're very popular in the Redwoods. And Wonder takes these messages on a regular basis, and she reads their messages to the trees. So this process continues. This first batch of messages has actually been put into a binder for people to look so that there's room for new messages. And then we also created and truly the purpose, one of the purposes of the project was really to start shifting the paradigm of how people relate to the trees, to go from looking at them as just a resource or not even really seeing them, that they're just kind of in the background, to really connecting with them, to think of them and relate to them perhaps as sentient beings. Perhaps not in the same way that humans are sentient, but these trees carry so much wisdom, as Danielea was saying. They have so much to share with us. They communicate with one another underground, and they're just magnificent beings. And they model for us how we as humans can live in harmony together with all of what's around us. So these questions hopefully will start conversations about how we all relate to the trees, and hopefully allows us to really think about the oneness of all of us and the natural world.
Ooh, yes, well said. I remember when I first heard about this project, I immediately went to, oh my goodness, how can we bring this to, the parks in Canada? How can we bring this out and wider? I also remember thinking, oh, it would be so great to hear what the trees say back, right? The two-way conversation. And I know that when we had our call about this, when I mentioned it, you said, and others say this to me too, because I jump right into the co-creative partnership. I've lived in the two-way communication, kind of all my life. But there's something really valuable about but when we're inviting people into this new kind of perception of our nature relatives, that we take it slowly and we take it a step at a time. And just the fact even of thinking to offer these messages and to know that they would be received is a really important step for people for whom this is unusual. So are there any plans to, I think you said that this exhibit is going to be moving through the Redwood Tree Park network?
Yes, there are plans for the exhibit to go to several of the parks in Northern California. And it's a project that's still constantly evolving. So the first step was in bringing the messages, and then the second step was to create this exhibit. I love the idea of expanding at some point to receive messages from the Redwoods. I don't have anything specific planned at the moment, but when the time is right, I'm sure that it will manifest. I think too, it's an opportunity also for anyone to connect with trees, on this shared basis of gratitude and love. And so truly anyone can do this by themselves, or they can get a group of friends together and collect messages, or just from the heart speak to the trees and start this dialogue with the tree beings. They've been waiting for us for a very long time. And they're ready. And so it's quite lovely now that we are finally ready. So yeah, so this can be done anywhere, anytime, by anybody.
Yes, yes. I was imagining though, wouldn't it be really cool at some point for you and Rhonda to return? And I just love the idea of it's an experiment. I love experimenting, but reading a message from one of them, reading it again, and then asking a tree, grandfather, do you have any response to so-and-so? Do you have, and then seeing what what grandfather might say back. And then we've got this like relay happening.
Yeah,
I know it puts you in the middle, but I mean, I go, oh my gosh, that might be so fun.
Well, the messages were first read last year, 2022, and I had no plans to go back. I kind of thought it was complete, and then it wasn't. So the exhibit came about, and I still was not planning to go back. And my son and my daughter said, you got to go and see this exhibit. So I went and had some profound experiences with the trees when I was there. So, things are revealed one step at a time. So I am open to going back next year and seeing what the Redwoods would like to do. At this point, I don't know what it is, but I'm open. I'm open to receiving whatever might come my way next year.
Oh my goodness, I have so many little threads that are jumping out going, oh my God, 72 for 72. If you read 72 messages, maybe there'd be 72 messages come back from the trees, right? I don't know. I just love the ongoing. Certainly with my nature elders, I have really long relationships with them. With Ishtako, my river, we're into 11 years, and so I know that I'm bonded with him for life, and so I'll pass on before he does. But so yeah, and the relationships evolve and change. They don't stay
Yeah.
the same. They're not,
Yeah.
Ishtako he's evolving and changing too, just as I am, and so does our relationship and the frequency of our connection and the reason for our connection. So, but it's what I like, and I know that's why I started this series, because I just love hearing like what happens or what unfolds when, like, what you've done is you literally are open to what arrives or what a call is, and then willing to take action on it, which is of course the other piece. I'd like to, we're approaching the time where we're open to either questions that are put into the chat. We can come to gallery view and share a bit. Does anybody have any questions or comments about, I'm just going to take us to gallery view, Devananda. Yeah, does anybody have, oh, I'll take us off spotlight. There we go. Does anybody have any comments or questions for Bev? Curiosities? Lots of smiles happening. It's a really beautiful story.
I'd love to share a memory from my early years. I think I was 16, and we went to Big Sur. This was Tree Child, by the way. And we were camping under the redwood trees. And my sister and I would walk through the campgrounds at night, just kind of checking out who's doing what and looking for parties, basically, because we were teenagers. And we were drawn by the most magical sound. And we just walked into somebody's campsite because it was like a moth to a flame. They were playing a thumb piano. I'd never heard one, never seen one. And my sister and I were just mesmerized by it. But there was the magic of the redwood trees and the sound of these people playing this thumb piano that just has stayed with me all these years. So I wanted to bring that into the space because it was just so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Tree Child. I have a sansula. And they love it as well. And flute, for any Native American flute players here, you know that the trees love to hear us play flute. Shauna.
I lived in Northern California for 11 years, from about 2000 to 2011, and I actually worked at Armstrong Redwoods State Reserve, and it was interesting because people came from all over the world, of course, to see the redwoods, but they would comment that they had never really felt something in nature, but they felt something from these trees, that these trees like were alive, because they were just so old. And there is something so special. I had so many beautiful experiences. I don't even have words that can describe the specialness. But I love the picture behind you, Beverly, because it reminds me that oftentimes the redwoods take on that kind of silvery color. And they're just such beautiful elders, and the ferns with them, they're just truly the most magical of places. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shauna. Elisa.
Hi, I'm Elisa. I'll introduce myself a little bit. I know some of you already. I've been working spiritually with trees for 20 years. I have between 1,000, 2,000 pages of my typed out communications, mostly with large old trees, as well as whales, dolphins, star crystals, boulders, and those who are working with me in spirit. And some of you were also on the Tree Spirit Tell Us Summit a few years ago. I made a little bonus perk of a booklet of excerpts from what I've got, and I put it in the chat. I put a link in the chat if any of you would like to get a little taste of what I have. And I've given tree love workshops, many here and also around the world. So my great beloveds are the trees. I would like to thank you so much, Beverly, for what you've done there, because I know how far that can go. And that if we talk about our trees, they all connect as well. So the trees that I started with, 6 trees who at some point meant several years ago, who said they were creating a project to try to save and thrive and re-thrive the planet and or create, the new earth or new earths. Then we started with 6 trees and it's up to over 35 million trees at this point. So what I found is when people talk about the trees they love, that message goes out. And so sometimes on a call like this, I've had like 18,000 trees join that project. I know there are other projects that many of you are doing as well. So I want to put in a plug for trees loving classical music, because one of the most emotional conversations I ever had was with a tree and way out on a sheep ranch in New Zealand, who said to me, "I'm a good listener." And I had been on a writer's retreat and for a month, and a lot of the month I was listening to Brahms. And so we had this incredible conversation about music and how God and the Shekinah co-create the universe using rhythms and intervals and basically music. And she even knew, I don't know if she picked it up from me or just knew it, that I had been very sad that Brahms burned a lot of his music because he thought it wasn't perfect enough. And she said that was music for another creation. He just didn't understand. But what I found after that was that all the trees that I knew loved classical music. At some point, I took my violin out and I wasn't playing very well. I have a tremor, to one of my original forest, and the whole forest just lit up. I just played all these different composers and different trees lit up from different composers, and then I took out Bluetooth head speakers, and the whole place lit up just listening to Beethoven and Brahms and Bach. So I just want to put in a plug for how much trees, and it was also, I could feel it coming even from the grass and the bushes and the mycelial mat, to respond to classical music as well. So I just thank all of you. I know you're all deeply connected, and I just believe that the more we talk about having these kinds of deep connections, the more okay it becomes for people to talk about it. And that maybe the more people talk about it, the more we're likely to save trees. When people started talking about whales and dolphins years ago, there was a big movement to try to save the whales and the dolphins. And the more we can say, hey, trees may be loving, masterful, unbelievably intelligent, sentient beings. I mean, a lot of the words they say to me they're like any spiritual teachings you would ever hear, but they're also very personal and healing, etc. So anyway, the link to my little booklet is in the chat, and I just want to share great love with all of you, and thank you, Beverly, for the wonderful thing. One thing that I did not get to do a few years ago, I went out to teach a tree love workshop in California, but the fires had started and it was over 100 degrees and all kinds of things happened, and I couldn't do it, and I felt sad about that. So I just have a great appreciation for those who are connecting there, and I'd still like to go out, but you brought it closer to me. So thank you, and thank you, Danielea, and everyone who's involved in putting this on. I'm sorry that I'm here only on the last call, but I'll listen to the recordings of the others.
Yeah, they're lovely. Thank you, Elisa. I'm just curious, is that a kapok tree behind you?
This is a Moreton Bay fig. It is the most powerful tree I have ever met. It's outside of Byron Bay in Australia.
Okay.
But in in the booklet, you'll see a kept-up tree that I worked with several times, and we took workshops there, who was really working the entire country city of Singapore. She's been taken down since then, which I was very sad about, but I have several talks with her. I think she's in that booklet. I'm quite sure, because it's the mother. You know, she looks like a beautiful ball gown. I mean, she's just so gorgeous.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I still feel connected with her. I don't feel like she's gone, actually. So,
Yeah. Beautiful.
but-
I lived in Singapore. So yeah, I recognize that. I'm going to be going to the Amazon very soon. And someone actually, we did a listening field with the some trees living in Auschwitz over top of the gas chambers.
oh my God.
It was profound. Originally with one tree, but two others came in and wanted to do, wanted to be heard as well. But in that, we had an Indigenous elder who was part of the listeners, and she brought in some kapok trees from the Amazon, and my gosh, the whole field reverberated with them. So they're one of the beings that I really look forward to meeting in the Amazon itself. And they often have the base of their trunks often look like that. And so that's why I was wondering. So beautiful. Thank you. I'm wondering, has anyone else got any other comments? Mary, Pam and Mary have both been guests here this year. So I'd love to hear from you. Anything you want to share. It's all good. Look at Pam's. I'm not talking. I got nothing. Mary.
Hey, I'll just say, you see that beautiful tree behind me?
Yeah.
That's the angel oak in Charleston, and I am there right now. I mean, I sat with her yesterday, and just to be in her presence is so amazing. You can't understand by looking at this picture how huge this being is. And I was sitting with her, and she talked to me about how humans need these big trees. And if there were more big trees, they could be shifting the consciousness on the planet and, allowing people to feel their energy. But she told me to just sit and breathe in her essence, and to hold it in my body memory, and that I could call it up whenever I needed it. So she told me to just sit there in silence, soak up her energy, and then I could call upon it. And I asked her, I said, I feel really drunk in your presence. And she said, you're feeling my state, my being. I live in this feeling of peace and happiness, and just tune into it when you need help, and I'll be there. And she said, you've taken in my energy, and it's here for the asking. So I really felt like she wanted me to just pass that on to everybody, just when you're with these amazing beings, just to take that time to soak it in, suck it in, take it into yourself, and to know that it's there, and that whenever you need it, you can call it up again. Yeah.
What's that song? You just call out my name, and I forget the melody. No, wherever I am, I will.
I'll come running
To see
you again.
again. Winter, spring, summer,
Summer,
fall.
fall.
All
you gotta do is call,
and I'll
and
be
I'll be
there.
there. Yes, I will. I'll be your friend.
Yeah. Oh, is it? I'll be your friend. Is that what?
No, no, that was wrong.
You've got a friend. Didn't
You've
you?
got a friend.
Oh, you've
That's
got
it.
a friend. Right.
Oh, that's so great. I mean, I'm excited. I just finished a 5-week. I wanted to share. I finished a 5-week Nature and Me nature connection for mental health and well-being with 9 youth from the Middle East, North Africa, and Lebanon, etc. And yeah, we coached it in that. It couched it originally in that language about having a nature friend. They ended up adopting and calling, using the nature elder language, but that's a great song that relates to that piece. Beverly, tell us, we've got a couple of minutes here. Tell us a little bit about Global Tree Lovers, and we've got the links in the chat as well and the Facebook group. But
Well, Global Tree Lovers started 2 or 3 years ago with Mary Getton, is one of the co-founders with me, as is Ann Cedarberg and Rhonda Sandy and Karen Aspen, who's since passed to the next plane, but she's still with us in spirit. And also a tree council that advises us. And Global Tree Lovers has 3 different events that we put on each year. We have a global tree meditation that actually just completed a few weeks ago. There's a celebration of trees in the fall, and then we do a global tree orienting weekend in the spring, which we collaborate with the Global Tree Network to add trees to the Global Tree Network. I think a little bit similar to what Elisa was describing of connecting all these trees through energetic mycelium with a intention of creating healing and harmony between humanity and the plant world. So that's it in a nutshell. Very quick description.
yeah, beautiful. So the link's in the chat if you want to join that Facebook page. You can find the listening field community. We have a Facebook page as well. I don't know, Devananda, if you have that link handy, but we can put that in the chat. But you can search us on Facebook. I also wanted to just say that next month, as I've mentioned, I'm going to be in Nova Scotia. And I'm really excited. This project is a dream come true. I'm partnering with Tree Child, who you've heard from already. And an organization that she's part of is called Honor the Earth Association of Nova Scotia. And this is an immersive experience. So I'm coming into Nova Scotia for 2 weeks. And for over an 8-9 day period, we are hosting 5 different on-site listening fields. And we are primarily focused with different nature elders in each location. So Fleming Park is on August 12th. And my goodness, so there's the hemlock tree community, and there are these giant glacial boulders, these rock elders. So we're going to be listening with them. And of course, in that flow of sacred reciprocity, we're going to be offering song, dance, and earth art in gratitude. But where the consultation is basically around what do the nature elders of Nova Scotia have to say to us at this time. And we'll be proposing questions that relate to current issues, as well as, having time to have personal consultations with these elders. So, so we're doing rock elders, we're doing water elders, so Mother Ocean, a river, a freshwater river. There's also a whole community of oak trees that are on a private property called the Narrows. So we'll have a full day immersion there, and we'll also be going to Turtle Song, which is Tree Child's land. And there they've got a marsh. So we're going to find out what the marsh elders have to say, plus rock, plus lake, plus an oak tree. So that's a full day immersion as well with a whole series of nature elders. And then to cap it all off, I return back to BC on the 24th, but on August 31st online, and there is a Facebook event for this, is the harvest session. And this is where we're going to share what are the messages that we've received from these nature elders. And yes, how can we take the wisdom that we've received and unpack it and apply it to our lives, to our communities, etc. So I invite you to join us on August 31st for that. And again, if you go to the Listening Field Facebook page or to the Listening Field community and join that group, you will see all the things that are upcoming. So we are at 6:30 and we're like officially closed of the Adventures in ecoRelations. And I just really want to thank you so much, Beverly. It's been such a beautifully gentle but very deep sharing and experience of really the Redwood energy and the love that is invoked by them in us. And so may we have more of this kind of love and respect that is generated through our bond with these our tree relatives, so that this becomes perfectly normal. In my mind and heart, it would be perfectly normal to be going for a walk in a park and coming along to meet people who are sitting quietly meditating with or singing to or receiving messages from, and people recognize it for what it is and either sit down and join, right? Or they just go by really quietly. They stop talking. They just really honor and respect what's happening and move on. And I know that we are really close to this happening more and more around the world. So I want to thank also everyone for coming. We'll just come back to gallery view as well, and you're welcome to unmute yourself as we're leaving. And again, just really acknowledging all of the 12 people who have presented over the past year to share with us about the unique relationships with not only trees, but also Mary was with whales and dolphins, and Tessa Teresa and Fiji, it was Mother Ocean, and then I don't know if we had any rock elders and mountains. I don't think we had a guest with that, but that's all right.
Juliet, there's something about rocks. Juliet.
Oh, Juliet Duff, of course it was. It was the stone elders of Cappadocia. Oof. So thank you very much. We did everyone got covered. So I appreciate that. Anything last words as we close out?
Well, thank you for the series, my favorite TV show.
Yeah.
And seeing all our virtual backgrounds, right? Seeing who we've got behind us, who's got our back. Yeah, thank you. Shauna, you wanted to say something?
Oh, I just wanted to say that my favorite box elder tree one time shared that its gift is sunshine through its leaf. And I see that in, of course, the picture behind Beverly. And I just think of that as a universal gift that trees have, is bringing us sunshine through their leaves. And I love what you're doing, Beverly. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. And thank you.
Anyone else?
And if anyone wants to come to Nova Scotia, we're starting on the 10th of August.
Wow.
See you
Thank
there.
you. Yes, thank you, Tree Child. That's what I meant to say was the video link that Devananda has put in there, that's an intro video. It's 20 minutes, 25 minutes or something. So it's a nice short video that talks about the project that was part of an intro that I did online. So just if you know of anybody in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Maine is not so far away. Yeah, come up for a week, because we're really looking to put together a listening team. So you can imagine, doing this journey start to finish with us. And very much, this is in a deep listening space. The listening field online is quite different from the listening field on land. As you can imagine, online we call the field into being. We call it close. We basically create a council. On land, we basically enter the field, because the forest or the ocean, Mother Ocean, or the rivers, they've already created the field. And so we enter, and then we go wide to connect with them. So I'm really looking forward to the co-creation of that experience. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jen, for your message. Thank you, Alice and Anne, Tree Child, all of those. Many blessings. And and Sharon, yes, your beautiful waterfall. All right, relatives. Well, we'll see what comes out back on the flip side. Podcast, co-hosts. Yeah, that's what's hanging in the ethers, is to partner up with a co-host on something. So let's stay connected, and please, yes, come and join us in the Listening Field Community Facebook page and community group, where we get to share more like this often, and we've got monthly circles happening as well. All right, blessings.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.